Alright, so tonight's story is going to be on Prophet Salih salam and the people of Thamud. But before we talk about the people of Thamud, we should first talk about where those people came from. Now, do you remember the story of Prophet Nuh salam?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he lived a great many years ago. He lived so long ago that his story is part of many cultures' story, because he lived so long ago. Now, at the time when Prophet Nuh lived, there were many people already on this planet. And where he lived, there were many people. And they had strayed from the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And from those people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Nuh to be a prophet and to warn the people and to bring them back to the straight path. And most of the people didn't listen and didn't follow. And he was a prophet for a really long time. He was a prophet for nearly 1,000 years. And in that time, very few people actually followed him. And after many years of preaching to his people and warning them and advising them, finally Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, no more people are going to follow. And he commanded him to build an ark. At which point, a boat.
Wait.
This Prophet Nuh to build it.
I thought it was Prophet Salih.
I have to go back in time first. To go back in time to tell you where the people of Prophet Thamud came from. So he built an ark, Prophet Nuh built an ark, a boat, and everybody perished except for the people who were on the boat. So if you can imagine all the people dying except a small group of people who could fit on that ark, who were the believers, everyone else perished. And so those people started a new town, like a new lineage. And after many, many generations, the descendants of Prophet Nuh were the people of Ad. And the people of Ad had magnificent buildings, they were tall and beautiful, they were great architects, and they were the descendants of Prophet Nuh's people. So you would think that they would stay on the straight path. You would think that they wouldn't stray the way they did, but they did. They strayed pretty miserably, and they were into wicked things, and they committed sin, and they were unjust, and they worshipped idols. So once again, a prophet was selected from amongst the people, and the prophet did as all prophets do, and that is to warn the people of the Day of Judgment and to remind them to worship Allah and have no other partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No idols, no intermediaries. And so Prophet Hud warned his people, and after a period of time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, no one else is going to follow you. And so he was commanded to take his followers and to leave, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a great punishment on those people. So just a few people from Prophet Hud's town of Ad were saved, a few followers, and they left. After many generations, the people of Prophet Hud, the people of Ad, were the people of Thamud. So the people of Thamud, the city of Thamud, are the descendants of Prophet Hud's people, small group of people, who are the descendants of Prophet Nuh's people, small group of people. Lots of people, most of them perished, small group of people. Then after many generations, again, most of the people perished, small group of people. It's an interesting thing that keeps happening. It's interesting that people keep going back to idol worshipping. They just keep going back to that over and over and over again. So now we're all the way up to the people of Thamud. Now they lived in a different area than the people of Ad and the people of Prophet Nuh's time. They lived in the valley of Qura, which is in Arabia. I think in the Arabian Peninsula. And the people of Thamud, who were the descendants of the people of Ad, had many comforts. They lived very luxurious lives. They had lush gardens and orchards. They lived in a valley that was surrounded by mountains, and they carved their homes out of the mountains. Beautiful structures that people from far and wide would come just to visit that city, to see those beautiful buildings. And they had rivers and gardens and beautiful trees, and it was just a very beautiful, lush place to live. It was a very nice, easy life. Good weather, great harvests. It was just so many things to be grateful for, and yet the people were no longer grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They forgot to thank Allah and show gratitude for the things that they were blessed with. Now the people of Thamud, similar to the people of Ad, were beautiful, strong. The people of Thamud, the people of Thamud were similar to the people of Ad in that they were beautiful people, they were strong, they were tall, they were skillful builders and planners. They were a very advanced civilization. They were very smart and clever. Their buildings were carved out of the mountain with as much ease as you could carve with clay. They were famous for their stone carvings and for their architecture. So famous that people would travel just to see their town and their carvings and their artistry and their architecture. But the people of Thamud were no longer grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Somewhere along the line, they stopped worshiping Allah alone. Now, they may still have worshipped Allah, but they started to introduce idols and partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
But they knew it's not right.
Did they know it's not right? I don't know. They may have initially known that it wasn't right, but I don't know at what point they forgot that it wasn't right. When one generation passes and you have been following what your parents do, you sometimes think it's the right thing to do without wondering whether it was right or wrong.
So if like Christians are right thingy, and I think Muslims are the right thing, then I'm just gonna keep on doing it, but actually Christians are the right thing.
That's a very good question. As an example, when you are a child, you follow your parents' religion. At some point when you're an adult, you can still follow your parents' religion, but you have to make a conscious effort to say, yes, I am of that religion. But when you're a child, you generally don't get to choose. You just follow what your parents do. And some people...
both of them change, why or still can you still change that religion?
Some people grow up with two religions in their family. Their mom is one religion and their dad is another religion.
But don't you usually follow the dad?
Yeah. So the people of Thamud, it's possible that a couple of generations prior, idol worship was introduced, and then they just kept it, and they didn't think about whether it was right or wrong. It was just they did it because their forefathers did it. A lot of people behave that way, where they're doing something simply because their forefathers did it.
What is forefathers?
Your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, your great-great...
Forefather.
Yeah. Usually the term is forefathers, but it means the generations that came before.
So like ancestors?
Yeah. Your ancestors. So while they may still have worshipped Allah, they also worshipped other than Allah and associated partners to Allah, and that is the greatest sin of all.
But I mean, they're not partners, but they're helpers. They're not. They're not partners, but they're helper. Angels are helpers.
Angels are not partners, you're correct, and they do what Allah wills. Yeah.
What about jinn? They get to that. They're like humans. Allah can't control them.
Allah has given free will to jinn. That is correct. Just as He has given free will to humans. So we have choices to make in our life, and that's what sets us apart from animals who do not have free will. Animals behave the way Allah
crab is a bite, and does Allah then tell them to bite us?
Yes. Yeah, a crab does bite, and Allah did tell them to bite in the form of instincts.
Why though?
Why? Because that's the way that they are created in order to protect themselves. Animals have a very simple...
Allah knows that we're not going to kill them because He knows stuff before we know it.
Well, you know when you're standing on the edge of the sidewalk and your ball rolls into the street and I can see you take a step off the sidewalk? I know it's going to happen, that you're going to walk into the street. Do you know? I'm not stopping you from walking into the street, but I know it's going to happen.
Well, Allah knows, the end of time what's going to happen.
Yes, that is true.
So He knows that we're not going to bite the crab, so why does He tell the crab to bite it?
Okay, well, so Allah puts instinct in the crab. But Allah in that moment doesn't say, crab, bite that little girl. It's a difference.
So He just lets it be.
Yes, very good. So the people of Thamud at some point started worshipping other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they got so far away from worshipping Allah that it was time that one amongst them should be chosen as a prophet. And that person was Prophet Salih alayhi salam. That person who was chosen, Salih who was chosen, was a pious man. He was generous. He was trustworthy. He was gentle. He had all of the attributes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has in all of His prophets. With being trustworthy, a very important quality. Now, by this point, the people of Thamud had neglected their worship in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They began to be arrogant, thinking that they were the most powerful people on the earth. They felt they could do anything. They were probably a very advanced civilization. And they did not give thanks to Allah, who is the one who created everything and who bestowed upon people the ability to be great architects, great leaders, great farmers. But when you start to think that you are the one who did that, then you forget to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it's only by Allah's blessing and mercy that you're able to do all of these things. So the people of Thamud were so prideful, they thought they would just live forever. They would have a beautiful town, and they had no need to worship Allah. They worshipped idols. I honestly don't know what the appeal of worshipping idols is. But the people of Thamud worshipped many idols. They gave them names, they decorated them, they had offerings for them and celebrations and holidays and festivals. And they asked those idols for everything they needed. And they believed that those idols gave them everything they needed.
What is this supposed to be?
It's like the inside of a house that has all these beautiful things. And then the people think, I have this beautiful vase and this beautiful goblet because I prayed to the idol. And the idol
but how can
showed
you
mercy
pray
on
to
me.
the idol and it happens, it appears.
Well, some things are going to happen whether you pray to an idol or not. And when something happens and you've prayed to an idol, you may think it's because I prayed to the idol. But Allah wills things to happen. And sometimes things just happen, whether you prayed for them or not.
It might not have been a miracle for like prophets or something. Of just a cow just appeared. You may dua that a cow would appear, but if you may dua that a cow would appear, it's not going to appear.
Right, okay, so there's a difference between something happening that feels coincidental and a miracle happening. And I will talk to you about the miracle of the camel in a little bit. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Salih alayhi salam, Prophet Salih alayhi salam, from the people of Thamud, just as he had chosen Prophet Nuh for his people and Prophet Hud for the people of Ad. Prophet Salih had all the wonderful characteristics that a prophet needs. He was good-natured and he was intelligent. He was respected by his elders as well as the young. He was helpful and kind and generous and gentle. And certainly his family members were very proud of Salih and probably hoped that he would grow up to be wealthy like all the other people of Thamud. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had a different plan for Salih. He commanded Salih to remind the people to worship Allah alone. Prophet Salih told his people that he was a prophet from Allah.
Were his parents idol worshippers?
Probably, but I can't say for certain. But probably idol worshippers, because everyone was probably an idol worshipper, except for maybe a few people in their heart felt like it wasn't the right thing. Prophet Salih told his people to worship Allah alone, and he reminded them that what he was telling them was for their own good and not for his benefit. He asked them to give up their bad habits, cheating, lying, drinking, idol worshipping, being unjust to the weak and the helpless, lying to one another, cheating when you traded, cheating in the scales. He told everybody in the valley of Iqra to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no God but Allah, he said. He is the only one that we should worship. He has created us and settled us on this earth. We should ask Him for help. Surah 11, Ayah 61. Don't ask the idols for help. Ask Allah for help. Not surprisingly, since we know from Prophet Hud and Prophet Nuh, very few people followed Prophet Salih. Most people thought he was a liar. Most people didn't want to pay attention to him and his message. Most people didn't want to give up their idol worshipping. Most people didn't want to give up their evil ways. They refused to change. Some people thought that Prophet Salih was a magician, some kind of person who could do magic tricks. And they weren't going to listen to him unless he brought something like a sign, unless he could do something that proved that he was indeed a prophet of Allah. So Prophet Salih asked them, "What do you want me to do?" And one of them replied, "If you really are a prophet, then make a camel appear from underneath this mountain." And then someone said, "Yes, that is a good idea, but But no, don't just make this camel appear. Make it a female camel, a she-camel, and make that camel deliver a baby as soon as she comes out. The crowd laughed. That's absurd and impossible. They thought a camel could never come out of the mountain. Not just descend from the mountain, but for the mountain to literally open up, and from the solid rock mountain, a camel should emerge. Now, a camel can only be born from its mother. A camel cannot just be created out of thin air.
Yes, it can. Allah can make it.
Exactly. Allah is the only one who can create from nothing. They wanted to make Prophet Salih a laughing stock. They wanted to laugh and mock at him. They wanted him to fail. They wanted him not to have followers. They wanted to embarrass him because they thought surely he can't create a mountain, can't just make a camel appear from the mountain. And the only one who can do that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So certainly, if this miracle should happen, then it's indeed from Allah. So they said, just make a camel appear. If you really are a prophet, make this camel appear. Make it a she-camel. Make the she-camel have a baby as soon as she does appear. Now Allah can do anything. And Prophet Salih prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. "O Allah," he said, "show them what they want to see." Now this is a very serious thing to happen. Because if Allah produces a miracle, there is no mistaking what that means. Because at that point, there is nothing that can protect you from disbelief. Because if you at that point say, "I see the miracle, and I know what this means, and I still don't believe," it's a grave sin, the greatest sin of all. And so, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted Salih his prayer, and immediately the mountain opened and the camel came out. And then she had a baby. And as soon as she emerged from the mountain, she delivered a baby. Now the people were shocked. They were surprised. And maybe some of them believed. But many of them who had asked for the miracle didn't really want to believe. They were just making Prophet Salih alayhi salam's life difficult. And we know this because of what happens next. Prophet Salih told the people that the camel was a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that they had to protect her. They had to feed her. They had to bring her to the well so she could drink. And they could not kill her. They had to protect her and her baby. She was a very special camel. She mustn't be used for work. She wasn't going to be taken on long journeys. She was like royalty. She was special.
Why?
Because Allah created her.
He created all animals.
He created her from nothing. And that's different and special. Everyone who's been created since is created from a mother and a father, except for Prophet Isa alayhi salam, who does not have a father.
Really? Oh yeah, he
doesn't have a father. Yeah, because that is a miracle. Allah created him.
Isa, you mean Musa?
Prophet Isa alayhi salam.
And Musa?
Musa has a mother and a father.
Oh, I don't see.
And Adam alayhi salam and his wife Hawa, they also did not have parents. Because they were created.
That's not as amazing as
So there are a couple of people that we know in history, a camel and 3 people who were just created.
Well, no. This person does have a mother and father, but the father birth. The father gives birth.
No.
Yeah, is a water animal.
Oh, yes, I see what you're saying. The seahorse, yes, that's a little different. Yeah, they still has a mom and a dad.
Yeah,
All creatures have a mom and a dad.
But this doesn't.
No, this is a miracle. That's why it does not have a mom or a dad. And that's why that she-camel had to be protected. So they would let her drink from a special well, and all the animals couldn't drink from that well. It was just for the she-camel. But the people of Thamud didn't really believe in Prophet Salih alayhi salam. They saw the camel, they knew it was a miracle, and yet they didn't want to believe. They didn't want to give up their old ways. They didn't want to believe in just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were quite arrogant and really set in their ways. So even though they had a miracle, it still didn't convince them enough to change their ways. And to make themselves feel better, they thought maybe Salih alayhi salam had done a trick on them. Maybe he had done a magic trick or done something else to make them believe that they saw that.
That he prayed to an island. He was just.
Ooh, that's a good question.
He actually was, but he just.
Like how maybe the idol had granted that power to him. Because here's the thing, is that my guess is that in their heart they know that an idol can't do anything, especially if they fashion that idol out of stone themselves and then they're praying to that idol. Maybe in their heart they know that that idol really can't do anything. Now there were some really cruel people amongst the people of Thamud, and they did not like the mother camel at all. And even though they had promised to protect her and the baby, they wanted to harm her and kill her. And one day, they actually did. They broke their promise to Prophet Salih alayhi salam, and instead of protecting the camel, they killed her. When Prophet Salih alayhi salam found out about this, he was very sad and very angry. He had warned his people about Allah's punishment. He told them, "You are unfortunate people because you could not be patient. You disobeyed Allah, and now you will receive His punishment. After 3 days, the punishment will come and destroy all of you." And so, Prophet Salih and his followers packed up all of their things. They moved out of their beautiful houses, and they prepared to leave Thamud and all of the evil people there.
What about their parents? Did they?
Only the believers left. Surah 7, Ayah 79. O my people, I did indeed convey to you the message for which I was sent by my Lord. I gave you counsel, but you do not love good counsel. Prophet Salih alayhi salam had advised his people, had warned his people, had given them good counsel, and they ignored him. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was going to send a great punishment to them. Now it's possible that once Prophet Salih and all of his people had left, the people of Thamud regretted their decision. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they were glad to be rid of Prophet Salih and all the people. But they would soon know the grave punishment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had in store for them. After 3 days and 3 nights, the great punishment came. An earthquake unlike anyone had ever seen before shook the land of Thamud, and everyone perished, and everything in the town of Thamud was destroyed. All of their magnificent buildings were crushed and broken, and all of the beautiful orchards were destroyed. And all of those grand carvings out of the mountains were cracked and just rubble on the ground. Everyone perished in the town of Thamud, except for the people who had followed Prophet Salih alayhi salam and had left. Prophet Salih and his followers moved to another area where they established a new community, and they lived in peace and harmony. So if you'd like to see some of the other lessons that we're doing in this Waldorf-inspired main lesson block, you can tap on the screen right now. If you want more information about the curriculum that I've created, you can find more details in the description box below. And if you're interested in seeing how our homeschool progresses on a daily basis, you can find me on Instagram at Pepper and Pine.